welcome all again to the second day, the fourth session of today for the Sania workshop on algebraic geometry and machine learning. The first session is going to be started by Bernard Morin. He is from INRIA, Sophia Antipolis from France. He's going to talk about machine learning, tensor decomposition, and the geometry of moments.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, good night, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to talk in this workshop. So I'm going to talk about machine learning, tensor, and moments. Machine learning in some understanding that I have, which is like in this problem. So here we consider some values, some numbers, sigma 0, sigma 1, sigma up to 2r-1. So complex values. And we would like to guess what is the nth value of this sequence. So we would like to learn from the first value what could be the next one. So if I give you here an example, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Here you have learned this already. You know that the next, well, you guess that the next number here will be 21. So you recognize here a Fibonacci sequence. And in fact, to guess what is the nth term of this sequence, you will be able to find some weights, omega I, some roots here, Ci, such that you can write sigma n as this sum of omega I, Ci to the n. And so here for Fibonacci, there will be two numbers, Ci, which are these golden numbers, roots of x squared minus x minus 1. And in fact, this sigma n, you can see this as a moment of a measure, the measure which is, so Dirac measure at the Xi and the weights omega I. And so you want to, to learn from these values how to recover this measure, or from the moments of this measure, how to recover it, to recover the structure of it. Another example, learning what is in a black box. So you have a black box. Inside you have a function f of x. So you give some input x and you get some output f of x. This function, well, you suppose it is a polynomial, so it's in fact it's a sparse polynomial with some monomials, x to the beta I, and some weights omega I. So you have r monomials here again, and r terms, and weights omega I, exponents beta I. So how can you recover, how can you learn what is f from values that you give as input and the value you get as output? So you can do this by, you can do this sampling, for instance, by choosing some phi, a complex number, maybe a root of unity, and you will evaluate, so you can evaluate f at all powers phi alpha. Well, alpha here will be a number. So sigma alpha is f of phi alpha. And because of this assumption, you will see that the value is the sum of so omega I phi beta I to the alpha, where beta I is the exponent appearing here, and So you can see it also as a moment of this measure sum of omega I Dirac at Xi, where Xi is phi to the beta. And knowing the Xi and the phi, you can recover the exponent beta. So this is a way to do sparse interpolation, in fact. So you sample the black box, the function in the black box at specific points, and you learn from these values what are the monomials, the number of terms in this function. This can be done in this is in the univariate case, but it can also be extended to the multivariate setting. Another example, which is more close to machine learning, it's about the mixture of Gaussian distributions. So you have a distribution G of Y, which is a sum of some normal distributions, Gaussian distributions, Fy of mu k, sigma k. So this distribution depends on some parameters, which are mu k, the mean of the variable, and sigma k, which is the covariance. In fact, this distribution here, it's an n-dimensional distribution. The covariance is a diagonal function with sigma square, sigma k to the square on the diagonal. And it's so it's a spherical Gaussian distribution. Meaning here we have some points, some data in some dimension n, which projected here on the plane gives this picture. So some concentration of points here around the first mean, another concentration here around this second point, another one here, and the fourth one here. So we see that the distribution of the point is spherical. They have not the same size. So this depends on the sigma k. And there is not the same number of points also, in the sense that here, for instance, we have more points and a little less here and a few points here and here. So the proportion of mixture is given by this weight omega k. And we would like also to learn what are these mu and sigma from the points, the sample points that we have, the data that we have here. For that, we can use this theorem by Xu and Kakade, 2013, saying that if you compute some specific average here, which is the average of, so you have M1 of X, which is a polynomial in variables X0, Xn, X1, Xn, so the dimension which is here. And you compute this mean, which is, well, some vector V, Y is the data, minus the mean of the data, scalar product with V, so to the square, and then Y scalar X, so X is just a symbolic vector here, a variable. You obtain, in fact, a univariate, a degree 1 polynomial, which has this form. So it's a sum of linear forms mu k scalar X with some weight, which is where omega k appear and sigma k square also. You can do a similar computation with the mean of the average of y scalar X to the square minus this sigma bar times the X square, the norm of X square. And you will obtain this sum of square terms where mu k appear. So mu k is the same factor here, mu k times x, scalar x to the square. Similarly, in degree 3, the mean of y to the x cube minus 3 times m1 of x times the norm square of x gives you this polynomial of degree 3, so homogeneous polynomial of degree 3, which is a sum of R terms. So R is a number of Gaussian distribution we have, where we have again mu k to the x, scalar x to the cube, which appear. So here it's a symmetric, it's a homogeneous polynomial of degree 3, which is decomposed as a sum of R powers of linear forms. And if we are able to recover these terms, mu k here, and the weight, and then do a decomposition here in terms of the mu k, we'll also get the sigma k. So being able to recover this decomposition, to learn this decomposition from the data, we will be able to recover the parameters describing this mixture of distribution. So we have this problem of recovering from M3 of X, this kind of decomposition. And this is what is known as tensor decomposition. So here we have a symmetric tensor, which is an homogeneous polynomial of degree d equals 3 in our example. And we want to decompose it as a sum of powers of, a weighted sum of powers of linear forms, like here. Using the apolar product, which is the product invariant on by the unitary group on the polynomials, homogeneous polynomials of degree d, so which is defined in this way. So it's essentially a product where we so we take the product of the sum of the product of the coefficients and multiply by some binomial coefficient. The property of this apolar product is that if you take the apolar product with the power of a linear form, you in fact evaluate the polynomial at the point corresponding to the coefficient of the linear form. And so we see that the tensor decomposition problem, which is finding this sum, omega I xi x to the d, is like finding a measure, which will be again, so a sum of omega I times Diracs at the point xi from moments, and the moments are the sigma alpha. They are, in fact, the coefficient of the polynomial psi, the coefficient of x alpha divided by the binomial coefficient. So again, from moments, we have we want to recover a measure which has a special form. Well, this problem has been already solved by Prony in the univariate case long time ago, when you want to recover the decomposition of a function which is the sum of exponentials. And so doing sampling at points 0, 1, regular points, so 0, 1, 2, and so on, 2 R points, where R is a number of terms in this sum, computing this matrix, the kernel of this matrix, P here, so sigma are the values at 0, 1, and so on, put in this form, so 0, sigma 0, sigma 1, sigma R, and then shifted to obtain what is called the Hankel matrix. Computing the kernel of this matrix, this gives a vector P0, P1, PR. Computing the roots of the polynomial defined by this coefficient Pi, it gives, so it obtains the xi, so the roots are xi, and the exponents which appear in the exponential, the zeta I, are the log of the xi. And the weights can be solved by, can be obtained by solving this van der Monde system. So this is a method which can be extended to the multivariate setting by considering sequence of moments as, in fact, either generating series. So we can associate instead to, so we have a sequence of coefficients here. We can look at the corresponding generating series, which is a sum of sigma alpha y alpha over alpha factorial, formal power series. And, but we can see this also as a linear functional on the polynomial. So sigma can be seen as a linear form going from R, the ring of polynomials, to K, the field of coefficients, which we assume here to be of characteristic 0. So what is this linear functional? You simply apply sigma on P by computing the sum of sigma alpha, P alpha. Sigma alpha are the moments. Okay. Inside this set of linear functional generating series, formal power series, we have polynomial exponential series, which can be written as a polynomial time an exponential. An exponential here will be of this form, so a linear exponent here, yi xi. The sum of this exponential of these linear terms, which can be seen as the generating series associated to the evaluation at a point xi. So it's an exercise to check that the generating series here will be this exponential. We can see this as also generating, so this polynomial exponential series as generating series of moments of measures which are Dirac's or derivation of Dirac's with coefficient here which are polynomials. So a distribution. Algebra, so this some algebra here coming, we have a nice structure of R module. We can multiply a linear functional by a polynomial, and then we can define what is the Hankel operator, just taking a linear functional and looking at the multiplication by this linear functional. So taking a P polynomial, multiply by sigma, and we obtain a linear function. Truncated operator. What is interesting here is the annihilator of this linear functional. What is it? Simply the kernel of this Hankel operator, that is the polynomials which multiply by sigma gives 0 as a linear functional. It's easy to check that it is an ideal of R. And it can be seen also as, if you want, the space, the linear recurrence relations which exist on our sequence sigma. So for instance, when we have a look at the sequence of Fibonacci numbers, this polynomial will be the recurrence relation between the different coefficients. So the term I plus 2 is the sum of the previous one. And this gives the polynomial x squared minus 6 minus 1. We have this annihilator, this ideal. We can look at the quotient by this ideal and have a commutative algebra, an algebra generated so finitely generated algebra. Here, yes, this Hankel operator is in fact defining an isomorphism between the quotient algebra and its dual. What is interesting here is that when we have Hankel operators of finite rank, we can we have here a sigma, a sequence which is a polynomial exponential series, and we can be specific. We can describe specifically what are the coefficients omega I. What are the xi which appear in this series? They are in fact the roots, the common roots of the ideal, the annihilator, I sigma. And the omega I describes the multiplicity of these roots. Okay, and so coming back to our decomposition problem, if we have a sigma which is the sum of weighted, so some weights time, I put here the evaluation xi, and before it was a Dirac, but the Dirac measure corresponds to the functional, which is the evaluation at the point xi. So here we have this, we assume we have this form for sigma. We can see that the rank here of the Hankel operator will be R, the number of terms. We can extract, yes, we can find bases of the quotient algebra by looking at sub matrices of the Hankel matrix of sigma, indexed by some bases B and B prime. So as soon as the submatrix is invertible, we know that the corresponding and the size is the rank. We know that the indexing sets are bases of the quotient. And then multiplication, we can compute multiplication operators by variables, eigenvectors, which will correspond to interpolation polynomials in this case, and find, in fact, from this computation, the roots. If we know the interpolation polynomials, we can easily recover the roots, especially if they are eigenvectors of this multiplication, and the weights, which are the sigma applied to the interpolation polynomial. Okay, that's say the algebraic structure which is behind this this problem. Now some geometry. So we were looking at this ideal I sigma, and so now we will go into the projective setting and look at ideals in homogeneous variables. So x bar is x0, x1, xn, and here we are looking at the ring of polynomials in these variables and look at the degree d parts of this. So we have this ideal which is homogeneous in S. We can look at D, which is the orthogonal of this ideal. So these are all the linear functionals which vanish on I, on the ideal I. So for instance, when we take the ideal I sigma defined before, sigma vanishes on I sigma by definition. If we come back to this, to the definition here, it's the annihilator. I sigma is the annihilator of sigma, so it will vanish on all polynomials which are in I sigma by definition. The orthogonal is a vector space of the dual of S, and moreover, it's stable by multiplication by these variables. When I define R points counted with multiplicity, then we have a vector space of dimension D. The orthogonal will be of dimension D. So D is in fact can be seen as a point in the Grassmannian of R space of the S star. And this, in fact, defines the Hilbert scheme. So the Hilbert scheme is the set of homogeneous saturated ideals of I of S, which are defining R points counted with multiplicities. So it's defined as a set of ideals, but we look at it as, in fact, an element in I orthogonal. So instead of looking at I, we look at I orthogonal, and moreover, we will restrict to some degree. So the degree rho, which is big enough. So here, bigger than R minus 1. R is the number of points. So we see an element in the Hilbert scheme as the I orthogonal in this degree rho, which is in fact a R dimensional space. So this D here is of dimension R. So it's a point in the Grassmannian of R spaces, inner spaces, of S rho, so the degree rho part, dual. And moreover, it's stable by multiplication by the xi. So if we go from component rho plus 1 multiplied by xi, we arrive in degree rho, and the orthogonal in degree rho. So we have, in fact, a subvariety of the Grassmannian, which correspond to this Hilbert scheme. If we want to compute with it, so we have Pluquer coordinates. So say we take here an element I orthogonal in degree D, which is, so D is bigger than rho, which is in fact an element, so a point of the Grassmannian. So it can be written as the product of U1, UR, where nu I are elements in the dual of SD, so SD star, SD dual. They are linear functionals defined on SD, where SD is the vector space of polynomials of degree D.
Bernard?
Yes?
Do you want to take a question? There is a question in the chat right now, or you want to leave it at the end?
I have not seen I cannot see the chat.
Yeah,
yes.
That's fine, I can.
Okay,
I just wanted to ask,
yes.
are you only considering the principal component of ideals of points and their limits, or are you considering the whole Hilbert scheme?
Yes, here it's the whole Hilbert scheme, yes. I'm talking here for the complete, a full description of the Hilbert scheme. And here we have ideals which may be defining simple points, are simple points, but maybe points with multiplicities. The sum of the multiplicities should be R. And so it's the complete.
That's just the principal component, though. There are other ideals that are not limits of our points.
Yes, yes, I agree. So these are also included here. There are, for instance, if you have a point which is of multiplicity R, a single point which is of multiplicity R, but it's not the limit of R simple points, it's included in this description, in this Hilbert scheme.
Thank you.
So the Pluquer coordinates are simply the linear functionals applied. So you choose a basis B for the, say a R tuple of, for instance, of monomials of degree D. So you have a basis S of SD, and then you take a R tuple of it. So B1, BR, and the Pluquer coordinates will be associated to this basis B will be simply the linear functional applied to the BI. So a very simple form here, which gives the Pluquer coordinates of this element of the Hilbert scheme. So if this Pluquer coordinate is not 0, it means that the B is in fact a basis of the quotient by the ideal. And we could recover for instance, the linear forms from the Pluquer coordinates here, or more generally in a normal form modulo the ideal in terms of this linear functions. We have a local description of the Hilbert scheme, which is given by a very simple property. So assume B, we are interested in ideals where B is the basis of the quotient. So this is say, giving an open set of the Hilbert scheme, and the Hilbert scheme is covered by such set, open set. And in this affine local set, we have a description of the Hilbert scheme so looking at so the nu are the coefficients are these linear functionals that we have seen. When we have this nu, we can define the normal form as we have seen here. These are the equation for the normal form in terms of the nu. So we can define the multiplication by xi in the basis B in this form, so normal form of the xi times B. And the equation defining locally this Hilbert scheme are simply that these operators commute. So that's enough to define locally this Hilbert scheme. Okay, and now I'm coming back again to sigma, which is our sum of omega I times this evaluation xi. So what would be the ideal associated to sigma? It will be, in fact, an ideal defining the point sigma I with multiplicity 1. So here we have simple points, no multiplicity. And as Joseph, you were saying, this is a special component of the Hilbert scheme, which we consider now. So we look at the image of the Hankel operator, say in some degree D. This is if we take D big enough, in particular bigger than the regularity of the points, xi1, xr. This will be in fact a space of dimension R. The rank of the Hankel operator here will be R. This space will be of dimension R, so it corresponds to a point in the Grassmannian of R spaces in so R D dual. So we come back to the affine situation. R is for the when we work in the affine setting. R in degree less than D correspond to SD, and here we take the dual. So what do we have? We have that, in fact, the image of D, the image of H sigma, the Hankel operator, D will be, so an element of the Grassmannian spanned by this evaluation at the points, xi. So it's a wedge product of this evaluation truncated in degree D. So here is a picture. We have this xi, which lives on a special variety, which is the Veronese variety. And we look at 3 of these points, and we take here the plane spanned by these 3 points. So this is the space D, spanned by these 3 red points. So there are these special points on the Veronese variety. Looking at the matrix of the Hankel operator, we have well, another representation of D as so the wedge product of the column of, for instance, the matrix U in this as singular value decomposition. So taking the R first columns of U here will give another generators of D. And again, from this, we will be able to recover by, in fact, the points. So from this matrix, we'll be able to find the point Xi, which gives, which are the Veronese variety and span the space D by eigen computation. Similar to what has been done before, looking at, in fact, operators of multiplication by variables. So that's the geometry.
Four
yes?
minutes left.
Okay, yes.
Thanks.
I want to show that this can be applied to, well, briefly, this can be applied to do, well, when we have data which are not exact, we need sometimes to do approximation. So we have a sigma, which is not exactly a sum of these evaluations. We need to approximate it by such a sum, and we can devise exact second order iteration based on Newton, Riemannian-Newton iterations with this formalism, and obtain here, for instance, some experimentation showing that we can get quickly to the best low rank approximation of some data, numerical data. It's a comparison with one function of TensorLab, where we put here, what is here is a relative error factor, which is the given here. So what the distance between our best rank R approximation with the initial term, and this is so obtained from a tensor which has been perturbed which has a perturbation of size epsilon. And so we divide by the perturbation size here. So meaning it should be smaller than 1 in most cases, but we see that here it's for this case, the maximum, they are very far from 1, which means that in fact it's not at all the good approximation which has been found. And in fact, this is due to the choice of random initial points, which is here not giving any good result here. So I finish with this example. So coming back to the Gaussian mixture, what is done in practice to recover the parameters is called the well, it's a method doing maximization, expectation maximization, which is an iterative method optimizing the omega and the mu and sigma iteratively from the data. Some comparison. So yes, here with some data where we know we have 4 clusters and 10 clusters in dimension 30 here and 6 there. And we compare with existing methods which use, say, random initial, which are well known, like k-means, which, however, use a random initialization. And with so we compare it with the tensor decomposition approach, where we use the tensor decomposition to find the determine the initial point. And then we apply the EM algorithm also. And we see in this example that some clusters are missed, for instance, here and here. The blue star are the good the points we found. The green square are the one found by the other method. And this shows that it's this tensor decomposition gives good initial points. It's a work done with Rima Khuja. And yes, I want to stop here and just to say that algebraic geometry here can help recovering well, appear in several contexts and can help recovering hidden structures even with numerical data.
Thanks very
Thank
much.
you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Bernard.